out of the window looking at the first round or two that's going to pass by, because maybe sometimes the game that you play is good enough and then you realize maybe later on you're outthinking yourself a little bit too much and things might be a little bit rocky. But in the end, I still think you're going to see a very slow-paced T1 type of setup trying to work towards this mid side very often and end up on either extremities from that split or even a fallback.
Here's my thing, and we've talked about this before. I don't think there is a strong versus weak when it comes to looking at maps. You know, there's only 4 maps in the pool. If you are bad on one map, maybe you're just not a good team.
Hey, you ban it.
The reality is, like, there's not much to really have to work on. There's only 4 maps. But what separates the teams often at this level is just what do they bring to the table, how do they play, and what do they utilize. Skadoodle getting aggressive. We've kind of criticized Skadoodle in the past for being a somewhat dull player as the Jett, but it's not here. Skadoodle pops off and finds 3. He charges down mid, and we talked about Cloud9 potentially being the one to set the pace, but it looks like T1's done it instead.
I love it. Even Jett laughed with me in the end. Skadoodle with the 3K. And yes, you're right. With them having a slow place, methodical play is usually seen on the attack, but I don't see, and I don't see a slow methodical play, or usually we see that on defense too, but we saw the opposite with Skadoodle just rushing down that bind area at the B link and already surprising the first one, which was the Sova. Vice, he went for the owl drone to check mid, never saw in his point of view that Jett was right in front of him, and Skadoodle really surprised everybody there. Great support from Catwalk with the breach. So AZK supporting with the pop flash, and they got those picks. So well done. That's put C9 on an eco, rushing inside the B site, but it's still being held by T1.
T1 with a solid hold thus far. The spike's been dropped on sidewalk as well, and there's just one player remaining trapped inside B main. They try to go fast, but it's solid position from T1 that prevents that from being realistic. Now we'll have the full buy come in. And DaZeD still rocking the frenzy. Finally upgrading to a rifle. We'll see 3 SMGs, a Bulldog, and a Phantom. Rifles across the board for the other side. We've talked about it already, how the op, especially on this map, we've noticed an op on attack is just kind of awkward, but no money for that here, so it's not going to be a factor. No kills yet for Cloud9. Again, we kind of profiled this yesterday. One of the players we wanted to keep our eyes on was Relyks, who is often tasked with the responsibility of watching for what's happening right now, this B main aggression. Now, they do have Mitch set up with the Killjoy turret, and that makes flanking so incredibly annoying. You know, the recent changes made it a little bit better, but still not as pleasant as it could be if that agent wasn't in the mix.
I like this so far, though. They pushed both extremities of the map for T1, putting Skadoodle in the corner of B main, and then you also have DaZeD pushing up towards A main. He's going to get the first off position, gets dinked and picked off by TenZ, while they were trying to push towards mid for Cloud9, so they're eventually trying to look for some ways to maybe move and shift the rotation, getting map control to start things off on mid. They still have a great avenue of routes that they could go for either sites. But right now, it's time for T1 to start guessing. They have to make the play. They have to try to make it 4-on-4. And it's brax that catches the first kill, but he doesn't check on the other side, so he gets traded off by shinobi. Now everybody's congregated towards the A side, where the split is actually being pushed towards B. A great play for Cloud9 Blue to open up the B side, while you still have TenZ lurking on the catwalk.
A solid read right now from Cloud9 to get themselves into the B site. Good reaction. Left. T1 over-rotating just a bit. The spike will get planted in a moment, back corner, and they've got the turret down as well. At this point, I kind of think you'll see a save here from T1. I mean, you're so far away from this site, the odds of getting back and actually having an opportunity for a retake is slim to none. And you can see they have no intentions of moving back towards that site. So they're going to surrender the round over to Cloud9, set themselves up for some exits.
Definitely, because if you're looking at the new money system, right, that means they're only going to get 1,000 credits going into the next round. And thinking about it from their point of view, I still have a hard time thinking about it of how they want to manage the economy, because there was one person that actually tweeted back and replied to me, and I thought it made sense. You try to focus on how much you invested into this round and how much it carries over to the next and how much money you're going to get. And well, what you're saving going to be more valuable moving into the next round? And at this case, the Bulldog and the Spectre that they have, that's minimum 3,100 credits for Bulldog and full shields. On top of that, the abilities, that's a lot of money invested. It's okay for them to get less credits into the next round, because they're still going to be looking good for decent guns into this one and still have a full gun round on the next. Or actually, they're still going to force it up, I guess, because they have those 2 rounds in a row.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, they'll even bring the op out.
Well, remember that they won that second round without really losing much, so their money wasn't that bad. And Cloud9, they found themselves in an interesting position. They had players advancing towards A. After the kill came through, but then they had like that mid control that was kind of like bizarre. It was, you know, DaZed's aggression was a little bit too far potentially, as he poked his head out and got punished, and that gave them flex potential. So Cloud9 was able to basically pick the litter of which site they wanted to go towards. And then you saw brax go for that play in mid. They knew that the Raze was there because of the boom bot that came through. So after getting the kill, didn't anticipate necessarily a second player being there, but obviously there could have been presence on catwalk as well. So it was a ballsy play.
Yeah.
He wanted to upgrade to that rifle and try and continue the fight. Didn't end up happening that way, so be it.
They're putting a lot of focus on mid side this time for T1. They have a tight angle because they have the Spectre being played by AZK that he saved in that previous round, and that's going to be with the help from a trapwire that's set up there. But you see from the position of Cypher, brax that's actually waiting here towards that shed. He's actually willing to support and play for the trade, while the camera is going to be the only angle that's going to watch the B main. So they're okay to give that control for Cloud9 Blue, but when the explosion comes in, they just want to hold the first rounds right at the entrance.
30 seconds left.
DaZeD and AZK trying to lock down mid. Now DaZeD has gone down. That puts AZK in the pressure position. I like this smoke from TenZ, who decides to push through. AZK can't quite line up the shot. It's Skadoodle who's there to try and save the day. Now brax is still on site, and he does deliver a dart into the belly of one of the targets trying to ascend the site. brax coming around the corner. Will he be able to stop the plant? Oh, Mitch canceled! That's actually huge. They don't get the spike plant, which means no spike plant cash. They could have had that if he just held it. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, as brax was already there, ready to dominate them. But still, a little extra money wouldn't have hurt.
That had to be a finger slip from Mitch, because with the time remaining, you don't want to go for a fake plant. You might not have enough time to go for the plant right after. And you don't expect that to go for a fake plant so that both players could peek and go for and hope for a 1-versus-1 fight from guessing angles of where your opponents could be. And because of that, the time was wasted where he has to commit to a plant, where the person that's stuck inside Boathouse is also stuck on an off angle where he got backstabbed in the end by the way that brax pushed forward. So Swag getting that kill, getting that double, putting the round here for T1, 3-1. And that's looking to put here, this is weird. The turret is actually facing heaven? Okay, no, sorry, because they actually push inside the site for the attackers. So that was a turret from Mitch going back towards heaven's side, so it was very aggressive here, and it's a retake play for T1.
I like these swarm grenades that came down too. Those are so when they do jump down, they'll land right into them and do significant damage as they try to contend with this random turret. That's been taken care of, but there's still the swarm grenades that are down that they'll have to worry about. And they're popping those swarm grenades to try and slow them down on the take, but it doesn't seem to be making too much of a difference. Spyder pops off, but Vice is there as well. We find ourselves in a 2-on-2, but now it's just down to 1. It's brax. And unfortunately, this round seems like it's lost as Shinobi peeks his head out. Cloud9 win the round. It was scrappy and hard fought, but everyone dies in the end anyway. It's fire and brimstone. All 10 players sent to the afterlife. But with Cloud9 winning, the money's just, honestly, just a little bit better. It's not significantly better, just a tad. And that's why TenZ is going to have to go to the judge. Might not be anticipating the amount of pressure that could be applied from T1 here, as they go to an AWP rifle and pistol setup. DaZeD hasn't even yet bought. Is he just going... Okay, I was going to say, he's not going armor classic. He does go down to the Sheriff.
Oh. Opponent spotted already. It's going to be another very quick round for Cloud9. TenZ is already inside the cyber cage, peeking out. It's going to be the shots from brax, but doesn't ring true, and the A side is open for a plant. But Spyder on that previous round, continuing on this round. That's 2 kills of his own, 5 in total over 2. People wanted to see him on a Phoenix, on a Duelist, on anything, as he's a great fragger and has been a great player in Overwatch, but I think seeing him as an Omen, he's definitely blossomed to when he first started in T1 to where he is now a lot more comfortable with the team and definitely putting those frags in as the Omen.
3-on-3 retake. Dart about to come out from DaZeD as he's jumping up and getting ready to fire. There you go. They'll start working their way through. Skadoodle has that op, and he's sending shots through the floor. They're running out of time. They desperately need to get in there, and they do. It's because of great openers, and there's DaZeD actually finding another one.
There's
But
no time, though.
no, they don't have this. They're all gonna die.
Oh no! As slow as they are on the attack, they're even slower on the retakes. Yes, the frags were beautiful, the shots were nice, but C9, they don't care that they lost players. Even if they died, they had the time on their side, and the round in the end, I've talked about this before, it doesn't have to be like a 13-6 or 13-7. As long as you get the win, you're happy about it, and the result counts. Because in both of these situations, although everybody dies, you still have a much lower buy for T1 into this one because they invested a lot of money on that previous round. So when you're saying like, hey, DaZeD is supposed to put that dart out soon to try to scan them out, he took way too long at that point before they wanted to execute. I mean, it wasn't even halfway until the spike was about to blow up.
Cover going out.
Oh, that is just a bizarre round.
Oh yeah.
It was a great retake. Like they retook nicely, but it just took too long. So clock management needs to be worked on just a bit. Unfortunate there for T1 as Cloud9 has 3 ults to work with: Showstopper, Lockdown, and Into the Shadows. Also available on the other side for T1, and they've got Neural Theft and Hunter's Fury. So there is some stopping power here with the Hunter's Fury, but utility-wise, not so much.
Yeah.
Sheriffs and Frenzies, it's pistols coming out.
That's right. And I mentioned this before, though. When T1 are in situations where, you know, they kind of fluff around, they're still able to turn it around with an ego. So the frenzies that they're playing close range, tight angles could come up huge. And you also have the Sheriff playing a little bit longer here, as you see from AZK. He could try to pop a few players before he runs away. And especially now that he's forced out of position from the staircase, brax goes for the first kill with the frenzy. They're going with the Hunter's Fury to get rid of the ults. And they will be able to do so they could still turtle inside the A site. But still, trades are happening. Spyder with a connection onto shinobi. It's a 3 versus 2. 13 seconds left on the clock. They have to commit. The thing comes in for Skadoodle. 1 more to go. It's Spyder coming in from the B site. And there's that 50 round. There's that round I told you about. With pistols, they could still get it done. And that's beautifully made.
That is not supposed to happen. You know, I was a little worried that they took so long to take care of that ult. I couldn't see the position of DaZeD before he started to set up the Hunter's Fury. So it's possible he just wasn't in a spot where he could logistically line it up. But he does end up taking out the lockdown, and it makes it a lot easier. And in the meantime, there was a duel on the site between Spyder and shinobi. Spyder wins the fight, takes the rifle, and continues to find more frags. Pistol kill comes through from Market. It all just worked out well. It was good positioning. And canceling that ult from Mitch made all the difference in the world. A little bit scrappy early on here. Both teams fighting for control of the scoreboard. T1 retains it for the time being. And Skadoodle's likely going to have a feeding frenzy here in B main. He finds 3. DaZeD picking off one of his own. And now it's up to just one player. It's Vice. And he's so far disconnected from the play that there's not much that can be done. With just a classic, he's trying to set up a cheeky angle on the edge of this bush between 2 ferns.
We don't want to go into type of questions and analytics that Zach Galifianakis would like to say, because I don't think we can say those kinds of things on here.
I have always wanted to do an esports show like Between 2 Ferns.
It would be so awesome. Somebody has to do it. That said, though, Vice picked off 5-3. After that 50 round, and a round that goes flawless for T1, that is a way to put the foot on the ground and say, look, we may have screwed up a little bit on that retake that we took 3 rounds ago, but Ska, he's here to play. Really ringing it, coming out beautifully on that pistol round into this round. Yes, they are eco frags, but people have been doubting Skadoodle a little bit too when they first introduced this roster with crashes in food. And when he took the time off, he said, hey, I want to try to add a little bit more into my agent pool, be a little bit more flex. He went over from the Sage to going for a Jett main now with the operator, and it's been paying off for him with the new movements, practicing how that agent's being played. You see that he's really blossomed into a more complete player as a duelist now with the Jett.
Vice using the Owl drone to go in first, spots out this clear territory and also takes out the tripwire, so that'll allow them to move up just a bit. Cloudburst coming out from TenZ as well to put the smoke down. They've now got full control of short and a follow-up smoke. That makes it way too easy for them to get on site. They were putting all that pressure on Skadoodle with the upper. He ends up getting taken down after just firing one shot. Gets connected on through the wall by Mitch. And good paint shells damage as well. So now Relyks is going to go ahead and dedicate towards the plant. They're trying to get back into the site if they can. TenZ actually goes down in a battle against Spyder, who has really stepped up his game here. But there's the flank play coming in from short. And now it's all up to the player up in heaven. And DaZeD ends up landing in the crosshair of Relyks, who finds 3 on the round. Solid work from the Raze for Cloud9. It'll be a round for them, and again, it's this back and forth volley. No team has won more than 2 rounds in a row, as you can see by the scoreboard, as they are both putting everything they've got into it. Strong performances coming out from Spyder and Skadoodle, 10 and 3 from each one extra assist for Spyder. On the opposite side, when you look at the kill tally, you think, how is this 5-4? Well, you know, part of that is a couple of those rounds that Cloud9 won, T1 was forced to save. And also, a couple of scenarios, they died trying to just get away from the spike that they planted. Now Skadoodle pops off in mid, gets an early kill with the Blade Storm, but is immediately taken out of the scenario. And now the A site is weak and they know it. Skadoodle, who typically plays in that area, has left a void in his absence. And that said, they still pick up a kill. Now, I like this read from Brax as well. Realizing, okay, they're probably pushing up A long because they know they got the kill on Skadoodle. They found a kill in mid. So he's going to be moving all the way around back on long, and he's got the camera and tripwires on site. Brax has a really well set up play. If he gets there in time, this flank could be punishing.
Yeah, but they're okay for retakes too, right? The camera is already going to give one position away. They can't close the door because it's been broken. And I'm assuming that could have been done intentionally from T1 as well. Because the amount of times that Spyder has been rotating back from the catwalk, Cloud9 should be afraid of that position now. But as they're both moving towards heaven and they have a huge sandwich from Brax, Brax can actually see the cannon there out in the open, gets that first backstab onto Mitch. They got rid of the door, and now it's just Vice that's stuck in the corner. So a great retake there for T1. They don't mind letting them get the plant. They go for the defuse. It's 6-4. But overall, I like how both of these teams are playing Bach, because it seems as though the name of the game is how do you lock down, how do you stop Skadoodle to start things off, especially when it comes out with the operator. He's the first one to die. And then after that for Cloud9, how do you actually shut down Spyder, who seems to be cracked out so far on how he's retaking sites. And the last time that he went back towards that catwalk, you finally had the great timing of what we know Relyks for on this map, which is lurk around with the Raze to be able to come back and get the kill. He got that one too. But on the other end for T1, how do you stop somebody like Relyks? Well, have Skadoodle just dash down towards the mid side, look towards B main, and win that fight versus Relyks. He's done that once to him, he's done that once to Vice, and then you saw AZK able to shut down TenZ. So both of these two teams really stunning each other and really taking out the X effect that allows for these two teams to progress and dominate on a single map.
There's the Hunter's Fury coming out towards short, and Brax is trying to dodge it as best he can. I love that move, shutting the door and then shadow stepping away. That allows Shinobi to shut the door and plant the spike. A bit of a ballsy move, as it could have left the spike in a pretty rough position to try and get it back from. But we find ourselves at a 4-on-4 regardless. Now the dart flushes DaZeD back, blast pack in over top of the wall, and Mitch is going to pick off DaZeD as well as he comes through from the backside of that play. They weren't anticipating that, pushing through from Garden. Now the window is still in place, and Mitch kind of gets stuck on the other side of the glass looking through. So it's a 3-on-3. As the fight continues to volley back and forth, there's one in hell, and you're asking yourself, Skadoodle, can you just take that shot, please? But it's going to fall onto Spyder. He's been a hero thus far, finds one, but can't get the second. The double-up position in hell produces success for Cloud9.
Last round.
And Shinobi this time does escape the spike, as a couple of times players have died to that spike detonation at the end of the post-round timer.
Yeah.
Final round, we'll see a full buy come in for both teams.
You kind of wish too, right, that Skadoodle took that shot, because we know it from the X-ray that somebody's there. But even Skadoodle was looking straight at that angle. If he just wanted to go for a random wall bang, maybe he doesn't want to give his position away that the retake is actually coming from T1, and that sounds the alarm for Cloud9 Blue. But if he actually shot, he actually gets the wall bang, which will force one player out of his position, which would allow somebody like Spyder and even AZK, I think, was that third player rotating back, coming from Heaven's side, to actually pinch in and probably surprise both players at Hell. It would have been a different scenario, but Spyder is going to have different plans for himself here for the team. So does Brax. They're looking to even up the tally on this first half, 6-6. Mitch is already spotted at the sliding door. He's going to have to try to clutch a 4 versus 1. Spots the first, the double peek. That's perfect play. And AZK actually makes it 7-5 for T1.
Switching sides.
7-5,
man.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you look at that scoreboard and you're like, there's 26 kills between 2 players. And then you look at the other side and you have 25 between the top 4. Like, what? How is that possible? 29 kills total on the entire side of Cloud9, but they're only down by 2 rounds. So some of those kills may be a little bit hollow. I mean, think about the fact that T1 retook a round and lost it because they didn't have time for the spike defuse. You know, that's certainly adding impact. And you look at the death total as well on Cloud9. Multiple times they won rounds and people couldn't get away from the spike, so they died anyway. So the scoreboard not really indicating just the close nature of this game.
Oh, yeah. It's indicating a very fun game, though.
Yeah, it's very scrappy, a lot of individual play. I love the fact that Cloud9 did go back to that fast play we saw from them yesterday, just kind of exploding on the A site using TenZ to get in quick. We saw them do that a couple of times in their last match yesterday, and it worked out well for them. Here, though, they're down by 2 as T1 has held their own on the defense. Now they switch over, and we'll see what they're able to do as Relyks is tasked with watching mid. The boom bot coming out. We'll spot him right around the corner. Skadoodle has some support, though, and takes it out with the pistol. Nice paranoia to flush him out of that position. And then aid that came through, too, but it was a good move from Skadoodle to tailwind out. But that's another piece of his toolkit that he doesn't have at his disposal. So when they go for that take, not going to be able to dash in and take the fights early. Now, brax has picked one off with the frenzy, but it's an immediate trade back from Relyks, who is very low on HP after that.
Yeah, but
So
that kill shouldn't happen.
Yeah, he's sitting at around 10 health.
Brax was able to lurk into the B
seconds
side, just things that Brax does, and Swag gets the kill and a backstab on Market that opens at the B side, allows now T1 to get in there as well, but there's only 20 seconds. At least the spike is already at that position. A face-to-face battle. It's going to be Spyder that takes the upper hand. Mitch is stuck on a 4 versus 1, and some very healthy players for T1. At the same time, setting up a perfect crossfire. And what I like, at least from T1, is despite them losing that control towards mid side, they know that there was a boom bot that was actually thrown towards market side. The owl drone came towards mid, and a paranoia came from catwalk. So they knew the position of 3 of the players of Cloud9, really putting a lot of emphasis on holding mid and keeping that mid in their favor, which means they know that it's going to be a weakened A site with 1 player, a weakened B site with 1 player. And as they had to lurk from brax on that B side, well, that backstab, that first kill, was that green light for just T1 to execute into the B site, which is why we mentioned the slow gameplay from T1. It's exactly for that. They just want to figure out where their opponents are playing, waste out the abilities that they have versus their opponents. That means they don't have much to push back when T1 eventually explodes. But this comes to, you know, some good results and as well as some scrappy results for T1. But so far, it's been paying off on this pistol.
Skadoodle jumping up, looking to spot someone mid. There's T1, and remember, that slow playstyle we spoke of. Remember, that's their thing. Very methodical approach, very CS-esque. You know, it's very reminiscent of some of the older teams that have played Counter-Strike throughout the years. It has been their downfall at times, but if they can fine-tune it and get to that magic number mark where they find, okay, we need 28 seconds to get onto this B site with this execute, I think this team could be very deadly. Now Skadoodle's trying to push up into mid, but Mitch, he just doesn't clear that angle hard enough. So Mitch spots the elbow and has an opportunity. Mitch is trying to dodge the damage that's coming through, able to stick in this position a little while longer, but with the classic against an SMG, you can't really expect Mitch to be in a successful position, especially with the damage that's already been dealt. So now they're just going to take advantage of this and work their way onto the B site, and there's no one there. The rest of Cloud9 is back towards mid. They're all outside market. So the door gets shut, and now they'll have to start changing positions to try and come in and do some extra damage. The round should be T1's. Cloud9 realistically should not find themselves back in this site.
No, especially with Mitch down, the turret's not going to see much. You could turtle into the site for T1. You bring your opponents against you, especially that they're on an eco. You usually see them kind of go for those last-minute type of pushes in terms of exits too. But Brax is actually going to fight back. It's looking great for them so far to be a 9-5 scoreline. But Relyks has different plans. A dink, but that's it. Then a 3 versus 1 to end things off. Vice is just going to try to make it look expensive as he spots one, the battle, the dance with Brax, the dink, and then the last bullet to get the wall bang from the sidewalk. It gets traded off. They did make it expensive, but T1 gets the round in the end. But T1 so far, you've seen Cloud9 Blue with a stack towards this mid, or should I say an angle towards mid, a stack towards A, and they're gambling for that push towards that B, towards that A side that didn't pay off. Now they have the money to work with, but they still don't have enough money to go for an operator, for example, for Cloud9. If they want to actually start trying this here on the attack, maybe that could be the solution that they have to actually hold it down. Sorry, on defense, try to hold them down because of how aggressive they're going. Always taking this mid control very slowly. Actually, that could be stopped by a long-range operator from TenZ that could be wielded up on that mid side. So maybe they'll look to build into that.
Relyks wants to get aggressive here. Tosses a nade into Cubby, but no one's there. And the orb is already gone. It's been scooped up by T1. So they back off from the play and start to shift their focus elsewhere. It does allow Relyks to continue to hold this position, and you can see him actually shifting into Wine Cellar. He's going to go back into the A side. Looked like for a second he was going to play Wine. Now you've got Mitch in mid. Currently holding down Market. He's got an alarm bot. His turret's on B inside Switch House. He's got nano swarms down on Sidewalk. And a little bit of extra support as well from DaZeD, who actually just rotated out of position. Or not DaZeD, excuse me. DaZeD is actually moving in with the Owl drone. Very slow round. I mean, we said it. This is going to be what they do. We're down to the 35-second mark, and they still haven't made their way onto a site. They're finally starting to take control of mid, and now Mitch is in a position where he's got Skadoodle and one more around the corner, and Mitch has really slowed this down to make it that much more difficult. They're trying to get onto the site, but with 23 seconds left, they can't get into good positions. This is exactly what we said we'd be worried about, but hold on! T1 is fighting their way out of it, almost. Some heroic work coming in from DaZeD. Ultimately, though, that's the spike carrier stuck against the door. This is the very same scenario we spoke of. The problems they could find themselves in here is if they take too long to get towards those sites.
Yeah.
It could be disastrous, and that's kind of what happened here. You know, they were down to that last-minute mark, and they lose 2 players mid, and it all just falls flat.
Yeah. Especially with the type of playstyle that T1 has, they could rely on their players for that type of playstyle. Meaning that you saw that when they're trying to explode into this split, 2 players died instantly towards the market side, but the other 3 players that are moving into the site, they could still have enough firepower to trade it off to make it very even, if not an attempt of a clutch situation that allows a player like Brax, a great lurker as he was in Counter-Strike, also a great clutcher for the team. We've seen that time and time again for T1. So that type of playstyle could really play, or you can really see that type of playstyle for T1 and with the agents and the players that they have composing that lineup. But with this one, though, it's going to be another situation where they have ecos or a forced buy, and it's paying off in their favor. A ghost and a bulldog kill, a frenzy in the hands. TenZ trying to move forward, within a couple of shots, finally connects, but runs out of bullets so that Spyder could actually trade it off. So they actually managed to get into the site. It's a 3 versus 2. They have a lockdown from Mitch, though, to try to push him out, but that's a huge ultimate from the shadows. Vice never sees it coming. Spyder for a 3K, looking for the 4, but Mitch stays alive for a bit. 89 HP, still very doable, especially with the lockdown that was thrown first. No spike has been planted, so he could still get the angle in. They could still run back to the B side if they want to for T1, but you have EZK at 2 HP, no more abilities with the exception of the fault line, but they have to act quick. With 24 seconds left, they're still in the back of mid.
I think they're still going to go towards A. And Mitch
you have
is not
to at this point.
You had an opportunity there, even still to that, you know, like the last few seconds. Where
10 seconds. 10 seconds left.
They gotta go. I mean, they have to run. They have to quite literally run. And they're just barely gonna get this spike down. I mean, this is the epitome of a last-second plant. 0.5 left as the spike touches. One swarm grenade in the right position in this round doesn't happen.
Yeah. That or even a
Mitch.
wall bang, right? The usual spots that you have, let's say, for example, a Cypher that plays that spot. If a trapwire was there or somebody that's playing that just as Mitch, literally as Sentinel that could also play as Cypher, knows about that wall bang position. If he was there and he was hearing that plant, wall bang, the round's over. That said, though, it's a different scenario. It's a 2 versus 1. He makes it a 1 versus 1. 11 HP versus 2 HP. He gets the headshot onto AZK as well. Clutch just a 2 versus 1, and C9 makes it 9-7.
All right, so I really like the way that T1 tried to play that. So T1 lines up the fault line through the wall, and then the peek comes through from DaZeD. I like the effort, the thought process, but the fault line was too wide. It was on the spike instead of right in front of them because they don't know where Mitch is gone. So it doesn't work out. And because of the fact that the fault line came through from that direction, Mitch just has to stay focused on it. For a second, he started to look away, which is a little bit concerning. But he ends up winning in the 1v1. He still had the Nano Swarm as well if he really wanted to. Low HP, but maybe he doesn't get the call out necessary. Again, 9-7, but when you look at that scoreboard, it's so bizarre to see a 2-round separation between the two teams when you have a massive deviation on the scoreboard in regards to just kill totals. I mean, T1 is putting in work, but Cloud9 is clicking. We talked about it in the pre-show, how Cloud9 would be the team that would rely a little bit more on individual performance, whereas T1 would be more of a team effort. It seems like the roles have swapped.
Well, they are trying to look for some information early here for T1 on that mid side, but TenZ right after the L drone comes out. He spotted up one player, but that's it. No more information out of that, but you see that T9 actually focuses to turtle back inside the A side, where they're looking to push back and gain control by pushing A main. So this opens up for T1 to go back to their mid control. They tag the alarm bot too, which is what I like. I talked about this before. Sometimes you don't need to shoot it out. You put the cloud burst. So Mitch still comes into a surprise when he hears the door being broken, but TenZ already rotated towards the B side to get the first kill. They're looking for that trade. The turret spots him through the smoke. It's going to be the kill from AZK. A 4 versus 4, a trade off towards mid side from Shinobi to Spyder. A 3 versus 3 now as Mitch has to come up huge inside the site.
Nice flash from AZK. You see Mitch just still blinded. Couldn't do much about it.
Spike planted.
Spike does go down. This time it's a little bit faster of a play coming in from T1, but look at that. The distance shot from Vice. He's got that rainbow arc. Able to put the shock dart straight into the belly. It's now a 2-on-2.
Revealing area.
With the position in B main, brax is incredibly important. It's going to come down to his timing. Now that shock dart is huge, does great damage, but now brax has to come in and save the day. If they get through into the U-Haul, they'll be able to survive a little while longer, or the boathouse. Now the spike is planted on the other side of the box, and they say that pros don't fake. Vice is going for it. He's got it close, but not today. Brax moves up too close. Vice has to pull off. Can't get the gun out in time. With 10 HP, Brax survives and takes round number 10 and puts it on the board for T1.
What did I tell you about the clutch situations, right? And also, I love the fact that with Valorant, you could actually defuse it halfway to continue it for the last 3.5 seconds and be off it. That was the idea from Vice. He knows that in his mind, he has enough time to actually go for halfway. He knows that Brax is going to push him forward anytime. And knowing that he's coming from the staircase because of the first kill that he got on that 2 versus 1 in favor of Cloud9. But he goes for the swing, goes for the wrong positioning of the crosshair, and it's going to be Brax that takes the upper hand. So Swag winning that 2 versus 1. Clutch situation for him. T1's in the lead. And remember when I said this series, it could still be up for grabs, but if T1 wins this map, there's a potential of a 2-0 versus Cloud9. Now that they have the defender side, how we know that Cloud9 could be good on defender side too, how we know that the Killjoy from Mitch is very good on a map like Ascent, they have to turn it around. They could turn it around. But it seems as though T1 is just a little bit more prepared for this morning matchup.
Skadoodle, early round pickoff on Shinobi. There's the ult coming out. The Hunter's Fury is sending damage downrange from Vice, but it's actually TenZ who does the dirty work as the Blade Storm finds 2. This aggressive play from Cloud9. Putting T1 quite literally up against a wall. Skadoodle somehow fights his way out of it. He's still got time to go back to the rifle, has to switch to the pistol.
Ooh.
I think Vice might have 2 HP. No, it's 1. Vice somehow barely survives. It's okay, T1 wins the round, but Skadoodle still almost had that, despite being put in an almost ridiculous scenario. managed to narrowly, or nearly escape, fight his way out of it. 11 rounds on the board for T1, though. Cloud9's going to have a full buy coming in, and that even includes an op purchase from Vice that gets dropped over to TenZ. Vice going armorless with the rifle.
Yeah.
Favoring that op for TenZ.
Like I said, they have to build into it, right? They need that op, and we haven't had a chance to see it yet, and this is the biggest test for them because they bought solo, they get the max bonus if they all die, and they're still not going to be healthy on a 12-7 position for T1. So instead of TenZ, they tried the aggressive pressure, kind of like what Skadoodle did in the first half, but it doesn't pay off for them. They're moving with the op, but it's going to be Skadoodle that wins that fight. That's a first player down and the most crucial player down. But they could maybe salvage this op. Shinobi moving into the corner of Catwalk instead on the same off angle, so they might not expect it. And then a double peek, a triple peek actually from mid side as well. And it's AZK that gets the top. Skadoodle continues forward. Finally gets traded off, but it's such a weak site. There's only one more player to go, and he's rotating from the back of mid on a 4 versus 1 alert from brax at the same time. That's going to happen at a post plant. This is not looking good for Cloud9 on this first map.
Not at all. They've gotten onto the site, and they'll go ahead and plant the spike.
Spike planted.
Vice not really in a winnable scenario here. The door's been shut. And if anything, he should be looking to get out of dodge. The problem is, they've got a player locking this down from mid. So brax is here, but he's not watching this angle. So Vice was actually able to sneak into the cubby on Catwalk. It's if he tries to escape that it'll be a problem. Now, if you look, there's an op down on the ground right next to him. That's the plan currently, but he's gonna have to fight to hold on to it. Now that they've spotted him out, he wants to go and swap and pick it up. Yeah, there's the problem.
Yeah.
Not anticipating the second looming threat. And in fact,
Match
T1 threw the op away.
Yeah.
So they don't want it. They don't want to give that to Cloud9 and give them some extra fighting power. They know that the buy coming into this next one's gonna be somewhat soft. So stick with the rifles. It's the right call.
Yeah, and time again, as we keep casting and mentioning it, Bach, and you mentioned it too, it's on the attack. Skadoodle is doing just great as a Jett with a rifle too. He actually won a 1 versus 1 versus brax close range, or sorry, versus TenZ close range when TenZ had the angle with the operator and still won that one too. So you could see how comfortable on the attacker side, moving with the Phantom for the team. T1 are looking to seal the deal in this final round. And again, it's battling back towards the A side for C9 to start things off. Very slow and methodical for T1 to clear out mid. They might see Mitch very soon here. No, the Owl Drone expires. So at least that it's not towards Pizza. With the alarm bot that's there, they have a clue that Mitch is still playing in between both of his abilities towards that B side. And now that it's weakened up, it's Skadoodle. What a nice flash, but Mitch still manages to turn 180 on time, back at it. And he was able to get a 3K before, but had a weaker weapon this time. And less bullets. It's trading off back and forth, and Cloud9 Blue are looking to fight another round. It's a 4-on-2 situation with the last 2 players for T1 spiked down on mid side.
Cover going out.
Spyder in B main. Teammate brax back towards mid. Spyder's a little bit low on HP. Not exactly an ideal scenario. He's going to try to pour it out. Yeah, brax trying to get that spike back in mid, but the round's over. Losing brax meant there's nothing that can be done. So
correct. He went for the first backstab kill from that lurk on mid side, and you saw from where Spyder is holding, he's like, okay, well, I have both of my smokes. I can wait towards B main. If brax actually gets the kill and they can move in towards the market side, then Spyder could actually smoke spawn, keep another smoke for later, or even smoke the market back while brax makes it in. And he's going to be the one that's going to hold the angle in that main door. While then you have brax that can run into the site and hopefully win a 1 versus 1 should somebody be in there. They're comfortable with that. But Cloud9 Blue, like we said, they held the grounds towards that mid side, and they're really focused on holding that spike, playing the time in their favor. They don't have to go for kills. They don't care about that. They want to keep the 3 players alive because they're very low on the economy situation, right? Even if they won the round, you already have Relyks still only stuck with a Bulldog. And speaking of Relyks, they were able to cancel him out really early into the game, and they continue to add that pressure to not allow Relyks to get those kills needed because he's currently sitting at sub 10 kills. So great job for T1 on nullifying that pressure from the lurk play.
Here's something I want to point out. T1 currently has 83 kills. Cloud9 has 58.
Yeah.
Like, the separation there, that's actually crazy that you would see that level of separation after 20 rounds, too. Mind you, that means that Cloud9 is, or T1 is averaging like 4 kills per round, which, like, that's just bonkers. Because if you were to see that, you would assume this is like 12-2. You see like that separation. You would expect this to be a much larger margin separating these two teams, but it's still somewhat close, and Cloud9 is still very much in this game. I know that T1's hit number 12. There's still obviously just like an inch left for them to get over before they close out the game. But Cloud9's got a lot of fight in them, and you know the buy round that's coming in from T1 is scrappy. You can see some players on pistols, some on rifles. It's not exactly ideal. So they're going to be working in towards the B site, off the Rolling Thunder. The Rolling Thunder actually misses. That Nano Swarm, oh my gosh. Brax takes so much damage. The Alarm Bot plus the Nano Swarm puts him down on 38. Now Mitch is only able to get the kill on the very soft target before being taken down, did significant damage to Skadoodle. But the spike's been planted. It's a 4-on-4.
Get out of my way!
We'll see what C9's able to do to try to get back into the site. A fault line coming out, Hunter's Fury as well being popped. Everything they've got is sent in that direction. There's the pulses coming out from DaZeD, and it's looking all but manageable here as T1 closes things out. We said that Cloud9 had a chance, but Spyder pops off and prevents that from being a reality. Absolutely fantastic first game for T1.
Oh yeah, we keep talking about how slow T1 could be, this and that, slow methodical play, but there's one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about was how if Spyder pops off, that could be such a great